Alright, YouTube, here we are. We're going to debut this layout, which is still very far from complete. And since we're following up on the TLV Ferrari video, thought that we would start with the Tomica Premium Ferrari Testarossa. And of course we have Fido here, who's contemplating lifting his leg there. Anyway, so this is a Tomica Premium Ferrari Testarossa. And then over here we have a Kyosho Ferrari Testarossa. Both of them are very nice in their own way. The Tomica does say the scale. It says it's 161, so that would be a little large. It honestly doesn't look that big to me. So we're going to look at some cars, and then we'll talk about the layout. Try to get all this done in a half hour. There are just some cars that I wanted to look at here on this new diorama. This X5 BMW. Great looking car. Also by Kyosho. I love these SUVs, larger castings from Kyosho. Any brand, whether it's TLV, Kyosho, Shuko. There aren't a whole ton of brands that do these large castings. But for the ones that do, I am a fan. Very cool looking. I'm going to park that back here at the cafe. Don't really know which order. Well, we looked at the Ferrari Dinos in the last video. Here's a Fiat. Little Fiat Dino. This one is made by Kyosho. So I'm a little bit concerned with this diorama about the lighting. And there are some imperfections. This little thing right here is going to drive me nuts. So when making this, I think it's safe to say that these buildings are closer to S scale than HO. I mean, here's the car pulled up to the front of the building. This is a small two-story building, but I'd say that looks fairly proportionate. But I don't know. Alright, so here is a Kyosho Lamborghini Miura. Which, I don't know how I feel about this car. I like the Yota from Kyosho. This one looks good, but I don't know that this is their best execution at replicating a model car. Maybe I just don't have enough of a mental reference of the Lamborghini Mira. I doubt there's a nicer one out there, though, I'll say that. Very cool. Alright, what else did I get out to look at? I got out a CM's Diecast. In fact, I'll show you over here because got it here at the cafe. And that is a CM's Ford Escort Cosworth. So I have my tripod here. I don't have a lot of room left on the table. In fact, for this side, this is a 4-foot layout, so I have probably half of it resting on a stack of totes, which is all die-cast. Those are all dollar cars, though. Well, mostly dollar cars. There are some premium Hot Wheels and Matchbox, but the bottom tote there is all Matchbox. That's a good sized tote. It's the equivalent of 2 of these. So that's all Matchbox. This is all General Motors, Hot Wheels. This is all Dodge and Ford Hot Wheels, I believe. And then this one is European. This is where all the Ferraris, Porsches, Volkswagens, Paganis, McLarens, all of that stuff. And then I have my Japanese one over on the floor over there. Alright, so let's take a look at this awesome Cosworth. I think overall, the presentation on this is pretty good. You know, that's the whole purpose of me making this, was for diecast presentation. This is probably the last diorama that I'm going to make. Certainly the last one I'm going to make for a while. They're just so time consuming, and they create a large mess. So they just it's just time for a break. I need a break. I know my wife needs a break. So I'll finish this one up because there's still quite a bit to do. But after this one, I'm going to put the brakes on for a while. I'm not going to stop to the point where I'm going to sell my static grass applicator. That's not happening. When you see me post that for sale, then you'll know I'm done. But it is very nice having a static grass applicator when making these dioramas. You can see you just get a much better result. Much better result. So, anyways, CM's Diecast Ford Escort Cosworth. And this thing is awesome. I really dig it. Looks pretty good there. I wish I could get some more CMs. They have an MR2 that I want to get so bad, but it's impossible to find. Impossible to find. Alright, we'll park that back back up at the cafe. So I'll show you guys 3 more cars, then we'll talk about the diorama a little bit and then wrap it up. This is a Konami Nissan Laurel. It's a different body style than any of the Laurels that Tomica did with the limited vintage. It's probably the closest premium detailed Laurel to the Hot Wheels. Although this one is much better, much more accurate, and just a better replica. Prototypical wheels, lens headlight inserts, painted taillights. Very cool car. Does have suspension. So that's the Laurel. Also have a Nissan Violet, which, like the Laurel, this is another body style that Tomica Limited Vintage never did. They have done some Violets, and they have done some Laurels, but not these two. This one is one of the first Konami cars that I ever purchased, and definitely one of my favorites. It's a very nicely executed replica. It has that suspension as well. Really nice, highly detailed tan interior. The last Konami would be this one here, my Toyota Crown. This is another car that Tomica Limited Vintage. They did the Crown. They did actually a few different Toyota Crowns, but never this body style. Curb check. Really cool car. This one does have insert lensed headlights as well as tail lights. Lots of detail. And all the Konami cars have prototypical OEM wheels. So that's pretty awesome. I think they're factory colors as well. Not super positive on that, but one other one I wanted to get out and look at on the layout is this Norev Mercedes. Yeah, that is killer. A lot of people aren't big fans of this transporter, but personally, I think this is one of the best transporters you can get in this scale. That includes the Nissan Atlas from TLV. It includes the International Durastar from Greenlight. I just totally dig this thing. It is based off of an actual truck. As a matter of fact, Jay Leno owns one of these. He does not have the car, I don't think. If he does have the car, he doesn't I think the car that he keeps on the top of his is the Gullwing. But yeah, this is just great. Lens headlights, tons of detail. Painted taillights. It's a big, heavy casting. Metal body, plastic base. Plastic tires. That's the one big downside to it. I would like to try to stick to rubber tires on this layout, but it's just not. That's just not possible. Because so many incredible cars have plastic tires, like this Testarossa, for example. Those are not rubber tires. But this does have suspension, so it is a little bit more forgiving on the road. This does not have suspension, so it's definitely less forgiving. Anyways, that's really it for the diecast that we're going to look at. Although we'll look at a couple more over here by the house as we talk about the layout. So here's what I have left to do. I guess I'll start with that. I've got to black out the interior of the buildings, which that's super easy. Might take me 5 or 10 minutes to do that. I need to rebuild this building. I do not like this building. I do not want to use it. I need to build a new building for this spot back here. And I'm thinking about putting this building back here and then building a new building for here, because I'd like another 2-story building to go next to this brick building, with the next one being part brick and part other materials, just to give it more contrast. And then at some point I will rebuild, or I'll build a new house, because this house is just too big. It's borderline too big for the scale. I think it's still buyable, but barely. You know, it's right there at the edge, and plus it's too big for the lot. I thought when I prepped this thing, I thought that this lot would be very accommodating for the house and garage, but as it turns out here, it's not. It's not all that accommodating at all. I didn't lay it out very, very well. Laying out the layouts is not my strong suit, as you can tell from every layout that I've done. None of them have been laid out ideally. In fact, this one, now that I've taken some pictures and as I'm doing a video on it, I can already tell a few things that I would do differently. Like this road here, I would move back to where there would be nothing back here. It would just be the buildings and then this road. But I did it where I did it because if I did it all the way back, there would be a whole bunch of wasted space up here. And so the way this is here, there is wasted space, but it's not terrible. So there's that. The fence for the house, I threw this one together, but I'm not going to use it. I hope I can find a use for it, though, at some point on some project somewhere. Because I like the way that it came out for like a cement wall. You know, it's got the graffiti, and you can tell it's had some graffiti cleaned up from it. And so I just don't think it works with this. I think I'm going to use plank fence. I like that look better. Plus, you know, if this were to be used, it would need to be sectioned off with some kind of posts or pillars or something. For the lot for the house, I really want to make a basketball hoop for the garage, because whoever lives here, they just need a basketball hoop. And I'm not like totally excited about the way that the ground came out. That is cement that I used, which is what I used on both of the car dealership and also the little diorama that I made for 100 Little Cars. I think the results on both of those layouts were much better than what I got here. But it is what it is. It cannot be redone. The only thing that can be done is to plaster over the top of it and then refinish it that way, which I'm not going to do. So, but the static grass came out really nice. I bought 3 different colors and 3 different lengths. All 3 are used at least somewhere on this diorama. All the static grass I used prior to this layout was 3mm, which is very short. And the shortest static grass used on this layout is 4mm, which doesn't sound like much. It's only 1mm, but it actually is a very noticeable difference. This grass right here is 4mm, and it's much taller than any of the grass used on any of my previous layouts. This is a 7mm grass here. In fact, some of it might be 12. But I only used the 12mm in a couple spots. I know I used it back here on this side of the house somewhere. I think it might be further back. And then I think I might have used it right here in this little spot. But I used a lot of 7 and 4. So here's what's left. Like I said, I got to black out the interior of the buildings. I need to add the telephone lines. I need to add trees. I need to make the trees to add them, which shouldn't be too hard. I need to make the fencing for the house property. I would like to resin the drainage here to at least have a little bit of water in it. Not necessarily deep, but just something to show what it is. Because right now, it's just kind of random. And, you know, someone asked me if I draw these out. And the answer to that is no. I think I get an idea in my head, just like a basic idea of what I would like it to look like. And the problem is the roads for I don't know what the proper scale is, because I've never looked it up, but the roads for 1 to 64 scale cars have to be a minimum of 4 inches wide. In order to get enough shoulder and enough median, you have to have 4 inches of width. And that's what these are. These are 4-inch roads. So 4 inches is pretty wide. It takes up a lot of real estate. And so when you do multiple roads, you know, like you have a road running across, and then if you do another one in a different direction, it just takes up a ton of diorama space. And so it what it does is it creates limitations as to what you can do, which is part of why that side of the diorama is not connected with this side with a paved road. Part of it is because I wanted to make this deeper, because I was going to make it an actual river, but then so yeah, I was going to make that deeper and then just do a little bridge here to connect that side with this side, and then I was going to do the road right here at the very front of the diorama. But after I had it sculpted and painted, I realized that that's just not going to be an option. There's just not enough clearance here to do a bridge. So my next thought was like a little drainage tunnel and then a road over the top. But the way I laid this out, there's a curve here, and I just didn't think that would look right. So I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to separate them. I'll make this paved road end at the property, and then I'll have a little dirt road here that runs to the creek, and then there's a little trail here for anybody that wants to mess around at the drainage ditch. And then on this side, it's the more urban town setting. So I'm pretty happy overall with the results. There are some things like this really bugs me, and I didn't even notice that until I started this video. But I'm pretty happy with the way the roads came out. I'm very happy with the way the sidewalks came out. This little parking lot over here was pretty difficult to do. There's probably 15 black washes on this. This was a light gray color to start, and then I did 6 or 7 washes on it, and then at that point I painted the stripes, and then I did probably another 7 or 8 washes on top of that. And I did this lot back here the same way, which this is just wasted space. This will never be seen. And I should have thought about that, because a lot of these accessories that I have, like these bike racks, I really didn't make this with any place for those. So, got this little payphone, which I will mount somewhere, maybe on the side of a building or something. So anyways, that's basically it. It's not hard to do. It is definitely time consuming. This has probably been the most, actually there's no probably about it, this has definitely been the most time consuming layout that I've done. I've got more than the 35 hours that I have into the overpass layout, but a lot of it with this one is the buildings. You know, if you take that out, it really didn't take all that long. The sidewalks were probably the most time consuming part, because all of the expansion joints had to be carved, and you know, a lot of sanding and a lot of detailing with the washes and the powders. Also, gluing the sidewalks down is somewhat of an art form in and of itself to get this effect here, because a lot of times with this wood, what ends up happening is this, where it lifts. But I think part of why this lifted is because I didn't get it even enough underneath. But anytime I've ever glued wood down, whether it's for like a foundation or whatever, it's always lifted like this. So the fact that I was able to get this down without it lifting, I'm very happy about that. And I think that's a very respectable result. So materials used, I started with, what is that, 1/2-inch plywood. And then on top of it, maybe that's 3/4 inch. So 3/4, and you don't want to go thinner than that because it will warp. The amount of water that you put on, water and glue, there's so much water and glue that goes onto it that it'll warp the board. So you want to get a nice thick board. A lot of people will even build a frame for it to help prevent it from doing that. But 3/4 inch plywood, it's 2 feet by 4 feet. And then on top of it, these are 8.5 by 11 by 1/2 inch, and it's just regular packing foam, but it's like little packing foam boards. And I would just stack them up and glue them, you know, to whatever my liking was, whatever was in my head. And then once they were glued down, I would carve away at it to get the different hills and valleys and all the uneven terrain. And then in some of the areas, sorry about that, in some of the areas you could build it back up. Like I added a little piece here. There's a little hill behind the house that I kind of built up. And then once the foam is glued and set, you take plaster, or what I use is drywall spackle. I've used it on every layout that I've made. It's never failed me. It's fairly durable, rolling cars on it. And then once all the plaster dries, then it's just sand, paint, and build. And so once you get it sanded and painted, in this case I used grout, and it was straight grout for the first time. The past couple dioramas I used a grout dirt mixture, but in this layout I used just straight grout. I did, just for some contrast, I added a dirt grout mix of a different color grout in some areas. And then for the ground covering, there are quite a few different materials. There are 3 different static grasses, 2 different coarse turfs, just a medium green and a dark green, 2 different kinds of lichen, the green and also the brown, which is the dead stuff, but I didn't use all that much of that. And then some bushes. All the material, all the green material is woodland scenics. And then here's some earth blend turf. For the trees that I'm going to make, I have these armatures that I made. So if you go out to your yard, if you don't have them in your yard, you can go find them at a park or something. But you just take little branches like this, and then what I do, some people will bake them at a low heat to bake all the biology out of it. which is definitely an option. I don't do that. Maybe I should. I don't know. But what I do, because they are kind of brittle, I give it a coat in Mod Podge matte finish. So I just take a paintbrush and paint on that glue. And then once you do that, you get this, I have it somewhere here. You can go to Hobby Lobby, and for like $3 they sell this undergrowth. But this is like it's like a fiber, and you can pull it apart and stretch it out, and it works really nice for trees. So start from the inside and then work your way out and up, and then you'll have a nice tree. So once that's done, I can put the trees into the ground, which is really easy because you just have like a crust layer of grout, and then underneath that it's foam. So you probably will need glue. But that's how I will make the trees. And then for the phone lines, I'll just use silver thread and golden needles. God, I haven't heard that song in a long time. All right, I think that's about it. If you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. If you guys are going to make a layout, the only thing I would ask is please don't paint your roads black. I see that. That's the most common mistake that people make. Just don't paint your roads black. Roads aren't black. I think the UPS guy might have a delivery to make here at the building. It's an awesome UPS truck. Hopefully Greenlight will do one now that they have UPS licensing. All right, well, that's 38 minutes. I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good Monday. Don't work too hard. And I'll holler at you all at the next video.